And a very happy Friday. It is RCM. I'm your host, Justin Myers. Super producer Brenden is safely partitioned on the other side of the glass. Thanks for getting up early with us or staying up late. However you are rolling on this particular Friday. A lot of stuff to dive into on the big show today. We're not going to talk about last night's game. Like back-to-back blowouts. They got the doors blown off by Minnesota again. And you know, I'll say this. Egg on your radio host's face, because I have been pounding the table, as they would say, about, hey, got to put Scoot Henderson in the starting lineup. Got to get Scoot in the start lineup. You got to get Scoot more. And I still, by the way, I still believe it. But for all the, hey, let's bring him along slowly, bring Scoot off the bench crowd, they got their ammo last night. They got their fuel for the fire because, you know, Blazers start Scoot 44-14 first quarter. Woo! To quote Simon Cowell, one of the great reality show personalities of all time, what the bloody hell was that? 44-14. Yes, Brenden.
Can I add in? That was absolutely atrocious.
Do you think Simon Cowell would work in 2024? Because here's the thing. Simon Cowell came in at a time when, obviously, reality TV was fairly new, right? There was The Real World, and Survivor, I think, was kind of going on. But for the most part, reality TV was not a thing. You had game shows, sure, and you had Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, which was a phenomenon that took over the pop culture world.
Amazing Race?
I think it wasn't quite there yet. I don't know if Amazing Race was even there yet. I think when the first American Idol came out. But at that time, game shows were hosted by
01.
01 was Amazing Race? Yeah, and I think it was 2000 was American Idol.
I think you're right, yeah.
Predated it by a whole year. And the hosts were like, you know, Alex Trebek and Pat Sajak and Regis, when Regis was doing Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. And then all of a sudden, and obviously Seacrest and Brian Dunkelman, who got bounced after year one. But, you know, Seacrest was the host, but the star of the show was old Simon Cowell. And the initial shock of like, hey, these kids are living their dreams. Yeah, it's terrible. It was absolutely terrible. Like, it was a pop culture moment, and I don't know if early 2000s Simon Cowell works in a world of, because we were coming out of the era. Like, I grew up in an era of self-esteem. Self-esteem was a big thing. How's your self-esteem? Is your self-esteem good? Self-esteem's a little bit low. Like, self-esteem was the whole, like, if you were an 80s and 90s kid, that was half the things you talked about, self-esteem. And then all these kids who are pumped up on, pats on the back, and you are great. You should go to L.A. You could be the next Britney Spears. You could be the next Christina Aguilera. And they get up there and they sing, and Simon Cowell's just sitting there like, yeah, that's terrible. You have no chance. It was like, what? Because if you grew up playing sports, you learn those lessons early. Early on in sports, right? It's there's Little League. Everybody gets to play. And then, you know, it's a little, and then like, okay, everybody gets to play in the regular season, but then we're going to pick all-stars. And so some kids didn't get picked, and you had to learn that lesson. And then once you got to all-stars, sometimes you didn't get to play, you got benched, right? Things happen. You learn, like, you're not quite good enough. The artistic kids, they never learned. Everybody got a role in the play. Everybody got to sing in the choir. They didn't cut kids who wanted to participate in the arts. And then Simon Cowell came in and was like, yeah, you're cut. You're terrible. You are no good. You go back to singing the national anthem at the high school football game because you are terrible. You can't be a pop star. Don't know if that would work in 2024. Needed it at the time, though. I don't know if you could like that's again a phenomenon that I don't know if your generation, Brenden, quite understands like the 4 to 5 year run that Mean Simon Cowell had on.
Of course I remember.
United.
I was there. I watched it. We talked about it every day at school. It was
But not the first 2 or 3 years. You were 4.
It's also the world's biggest NSYNC fan at 4 or 5 years old too. So
I gotcha.
Like I said, I was pretty had a pretty good head on my shoulders for a 5 or 6 year old.
Gotcha. I don't remember anything from when I was 4 years old. I have no idea like what was going on in the world, but just
you're saying nowadays people be too sensitive.
You think?
Yeah, probably,
yeah.
But
I don't know.
That was the beauty of that TV at the moment, right?
Of course it was. That was the like watching dreams get crushed. I don't know why.
Oh, it was great.
It was so fun to watch, but we did.
Like you mentioned it being something at the office. Like Justin, whether this was, I mean, yeah, like I can distinctively remember like getting on the school bus, which would have been 3rd, 4th, or 5th grade, and talking, oh my gosh, did you see what's his name's performance or audition last night in America? Like, I can distinctly remember that being a school bus discussion or, the results, because it was Monday and Tuesday.
Yeah. So they would do the performances, and then we'd all vote, and text message rates do apply. And so we learnned about
text message rates.
Yeah, we had to learn about remember it cost like 10 cents. It was like,
or the minutes commercials. They're rollover minutes, Justin.
But yeah, because I think the reason that it was a competition, right? It was each and every week somebody got voted off the island on Survivor, and every week somebody got voted off of American Idol, and they found this is a thing. But also there's a whole world that had to sit around and listen to overly confident kids whose parents said they were superstars, and you had to sit through recitals, you had to sit through band performances, and had to be, because we cared about self-esteem, we had to be like, that was great. And finally somebody was like, that was terrible, guys. That was no good. You need to do something else. The dream is over. Anywho, all that being said, that was absolutely dreadful last night with the Blazers. What on earth was that? It was bad. It was no good. It was a team that looks like they're ready for the All-Star break. Let's just say that. Let's just say that was a team ready for the All-Star break. Now, we're also going to talk about something later on in the program that I saw. Did you see the LED court? Now, I don't know if it's the actual All-Star court or if it's just they're trying it out on All-Star Saturday, but they got a thing in Indianapolis where the All-Star game is, where the court will show graphics, replays, real-time statistics on the court. Not we see it on the TV. They will see some guy's going to pull up for 3, and right next to him is going to be 27% from there, bro. You sure you want to pull it up? So seeing that, I have some ideas that I want to throw out, because in almost every phase of sports, the NFL is crushing the NBA. In almost every phase. Television broadcasts, ratings, Super Bowl. It's the most popular Super Bowl ever. Remember, nobody was watching. Oh, Taylor's ruined the, NFL ratings continue to go up. Football is as popular as it's ever been. The NFL is as popular as it's ever been. The NBA, not so much. And this is not a knock. It's actually a tip of the cap respect. Because Caitlin Clark last night, did you see that 3 that Caitlin Clark hit last night? Dude. So Caitlin Clark of Iowa, she is now the all-time leading scorer in women's college basketball history. Did it, by the way, in less games than Kelsey Plum did. That's not a knock on Kelsey Plum. That's a knock on Cheryl Swoops. Google it. Look it up.
Because I really like Kelsey Plum.
Because there were some haters out there who were like, well, she shoots 40 times a game, and she got 7 years of eligibility. It's yeah, none of that's true. It's easily researched.
Now, I do
But
have
Caitlin Clark, she pulls up, Brenden, with the record on the line from, like, the logo.
Yeah.
And hammered it. And because of Caitlin Clark and because of, I think, Angel Reese last year and a couple, women's college basketball is outrating the NBA regular season. Because I think for a lot of different reasons, I think kind of the college football model is kind of which is people can get on board their old alma mater, right? Or their regional team. But also, like, Caitlin Clark plays every game. No, it's less games, but, like, the recognizable faces in women's college basketball, they play. And they play hard. Whereas the NBA, can't really say that night in and night out. You can't. You can't, like, you tune into an Iowa women's Hawkeyes basketball game, you're like, I'm going to see Caitlin Clark probably score about 28. I tune into the Lakers. I might see LeBron. I might not. You know? So the NBA's got some problems. I will say, though, when it comes to technical ingenuity and the embracing of future technologies, the NBA is there. NFL needs to start doing this. The fact that there's still a chain gang. The fact that, like, we were watching the Super Bowl. Remember that game that was happened last week? And I'm sitting there next to my wife. Now, Brenden, you know this. Whenever there's a change of possession, the referees throw down that little beanbag, you know? And it looks like they're throwing a flag. And so there was a punt, and Kelly turned to me and she was like, was there a flag on the play? And I go, no, it's just a beanbag. Like, they throw it down to mark if there's a change of possession. And she asked a very smart question because she is a very smart person. She's like, we're still doing beanbags? Like, we still have chains on sticks and we still have beanbags. Like, the amount of technology that we have in the world, the NFL is still throwing beanbags down and still measuring stuff with chains on sticks, right? Like, so I've got some thoughts on what could potentially and should potentially be coming down the pike with football and tech ingenuity. But before we dive into all that, it is the end of the week. We did it, gang. We made it. It is a weekend ahead. Now, it may not be a football weekend, and you may have a list of things that you've been putting off, but regardless, you grinded it out all week. And you got to this particular point of the week where the vibes are high. Why? Because the weekend brings an awful lot of possibilities, and we celebrate that on this program with an upgraded caffeinated beverage we call Fancy Coffee Friday. Here we go. That is right. It is Fancy Coffee Friday. Congratulations to each and every one of you. You did it. You made it. We are crushing life on this particular program. We have the hardest working audience in all of sports radio. How do I know it? I can feel it. Vibes are high. And whether you are out delivering Amazon packages, whether you are out stocking shelves, or whether you were grinding it out in the cubicle, wheeling and dealing, smiling and dialing, and stacking deals on deals on deals, congratulations to the end of the week. We salute you. We're proud of you. We're happy you hang out with us for even a smidge of your time. And you know what? What's a fancy coffee to you? Well, that's up to you. If you feel like waiting 15 minutes for the barista chemist to make that perfect cup of pour over coffee, then you know what? You do that today. If you want to throw if you want hazelnut on top of vanilla on top of caramel, and that's your fancy coffee, you know what? We're not going to judge. If you want one of those milkshake-looking blended frappuccinos, you know what? Have at it, because it is your fancy coffee and it is your day, and you need to treat yourself with whatever you feel like. So, cups up. Cheers to all of you. Cheers to you, Brenden. Let's crush a Fancy Coffee Friday today. I'm pumped up. Oh, yeah. I don't know if it's the vibes on Friday or if it's the actual fancy coffee that gives me just a couple extra milligrams of the caffeine, but feeling it today. Feeling good about the next 2 hours and 45 minutes. All right, coming up next. If you listen to this program at all, shocker, we're going to talk some football. It was a week ago. One of the oddest things happened in the college football world with a guy we are very familiar with in the Pacific Northwest. And because of the Super Bowl, we have yet to do a truly deep dive as to what happened in the college football world a week ago. Well, we're going to do it next. 620 Rip City Radio. All right, it was 1 week ago. It was 1 week ago when Chip Kelly made the I don't even know how to describe it. I would say improbable. I think improbable is the proper adjective. Made the improbable decision to leave a job that he was, for all intents and purposes, in good standing with as a head coach of a major market, high level, power conference member football program, to take a demotion, because it was, take a demotion to become the offensive coordinator at Ohio State. And I'm assuming in taking the demotion, taking a pay cut. I believe Chip was getting about $6-7 million a year. I think it was somewhere around there. Brenden, can you Google that for me, please? By the way, Brenden, you did get a bit of a shout out at the Super Bowl party I attended as we were sitting there trying to figure out what
$6 million is your answer.
$6 million. I had it. I should.
You did. You did.
As we were sitting at the Super Bowl party and everybody's looking at me for the overtime rules, and I was like, I think it's and somebody's like, you don't have a producer to Google it for you, right? I'm like, be nice to have.
Fair.
By the way, all you goofballs have phones. You could Google it too. But anyways, yeah, $6 million a year as a head coach, and now I'm sure at some point, because Chip got a very good or a very financially beneficial extension in his final couple years at Oregon. Philadelphia Eagles, when they fired him, clearly paid him out. 1 year with the 49ers, and then that year he spent on ESPN, 49ers, there was a time where two teams were paying him. And I believe he was in the middle of a $35 million, or maybe it was a $30 million contract, 5 years, $30 million, in the middle of a $30 million deal there at UCLA. And at the end of the season, after they beat UCLA, got the athletic director with the victory bell sitting there saying, like, this is our coach, he's not getting fired. And then they lose to Cal.
As they beat Caleb Williams.
They beat Caleb Williams.
Going to leave that out there.
Lost to Cal the next week. But
anyone running with my Justin Wilcox theory yet, Justin? Trying to put that into the universe so I can take credit for it when it happens.
I mean, it's not, because of what we're going to talk about right now, all bets are off. A week ago, you would have said, hey, Justin Wilcox might leave to become a defensive coordinator in the NFL. And I would be like, Brenden, let me take a sniff of that fancy coffee because I think you might have snuck something in there. But
it's true.
But in the coaching carousel that we have seen in college football, not just in college football, just in football, when does a coach ever leave a national championship team? Very rarely, if ever. I can't think off the top of my head a coach like Jim Harbaugh now, but it's Jim Harbaugh, right? All bets are off. We had a college football playoff with 4 teams, 3 of which have new coaches now. The head coach at Boston College left to go be the defensive coordinator of the Green Bay Packers, which some may say is a demotion. I would say Boston College to defensive coordinator of the Green Bay Packers, lateral move, if not a step up. It's not a powerhouse program. Boston College, like, again, the Dan Lanning, what have they won recently? No, nothing?
It's like the greatest quote ever, man. I've used it for it's like a blanket quote now. I've used it for so many things.
I'm just wondering, like, what have they won? Gotcha. Because you're all talking about, like, they've won something. And then, I know he's not going to do it again, but 4-8? That's what they did? Deion should get the Alabama job. 4-8 at Colorado. Got it. Okay. Get some rappers to come to the sidelines, but you won 4 games last year. You won 4 in the Pac-12. He should take over Alabama? Okay, got it. Figured it out. This is my biggest gripe with college football, man. I love it. I love it with all my heart. My biggest gripe is, like, the wins don't matter. Wins and losses don't, like, NFL, you are what your record is. There's nobody out there going like, hey, the Lions, what'd they win? Like 11 regular season games? Like, yeah, but it's like nobody does that in the NFL. And college football, we do it all the time. Anyways. So in this coaching carousel, we've seen the head coach of Boston College leave to the NFL. And our guest coming up in an hour and some change, Josh Pate, said, you watch, with the changing tide in college football, there is going to be a coach who is going to say, not retire like Nick Saban, but is going to say, yeah, I don't like the way this is going. I don't like this NIL, wild, wild west. I don't like this transfer portal, essentially 2 free agency periods every year. And even then, kids are announcing they will intend to transfer. Like, nobody's respecting the portal windows. The month of December is gone completely away from bowl game prep and turned completely into, like, the starting quarterback of Oklahoma just left and came to Oregon. Like, that's insane. And Chip Kelly seems to be the first coach to be like, yeah, I'm not playing your game anymore. Ryan Day, can I just come and draw up a lot of plays? So, as inexplicable as it is, it's kind of it seems to be kind of the norm now. If players are going to be in a transfer portal, I'm not happy where I'm at, and I get to leave. It's what's good for the player is good for the coach, the goose and the gander, right? And coaches, I think, may ultimately be in a spot where, like, if I'm not feeling this, I'm going to go ahead and bail, and I'll just be a coordinator or something. So Chip Kelly leaves, and I would say I'm F1 50-50 on whether or not he'll ever be a head coach again. A lot of people would be like, well, Justin, what are you talking about? Yeah, if he goes to Ohio State and for the next 2 or 3 years, they have an offensive revolution.
They dominate, yeah.
They dominate. They win a couple of they get to a final. Like, is the Final Four going to be like a new thing?
Yes.
With the 12-team playoff, where it's going to be like not exactly okay for Ohio State or Michigan or Alabama, but like certain teams like, hey, we made the Final Four. We won 2 playoff games. It's going to be a thing. But there's a chance Chip Kelly goes to Ohio State, and they're not better than Oregon, and they're not better than USC, and they're not better than Michigan, and they're not better than Penn State. It's a possibility, right? There's no guarantee that Chip Kelly's going to come in, and now he's always going to do is focus on offense. Like, all right. But the offensive coordinator at Ohio State, if they're not winning, is going to be especially a guy who is as prevalent as Chip Kelly. Boy, he might be the first one to take some slings and arrows from a crazed, intensely passionate, sometimes delusional fan base there in the great state of Ohio. The heartbeat of the country is what they call it, because it's shaped like a heart, and it's right in the middle. If Chip Kelly goes there and fails, because nobody's thinking that, but it's a possibility. Because since the 4-year run at Oregon, what has Chip Kelly done that has been elite? Nothing. He's done nothing. He's had some good seasons. Had 2 decent seasons with the Philadelphia Eagles, then got into a power struggle with the front office, ultimately won the power struggle, so he had full control of the roster, made some ridiculously dumb roster moves. I know that Deshaun Jackson and Shady McCoy might have been some problematic dudes, but they are talented, and the good coaches in the NFL learn how to deal with the talented, problematic dudes. You don't ship them off and only win 6 games the next year. So after 3 years, he was fired, then takes the job at the 49ers. That was a
There was a reason for some failings there. Like, the ownership was terrible. They didn't set him up for success. And
With the 49ers?
Yeah. And then, obviously, something happened with his quarterback.
There was that, too. But they were also in the midst of, like, it's a 2-14 season. It
was really bad.
It was a complete mess. And then he gets fired, spends 1 year being awkward on TV, because that's not his comfort zone. Then, after what seemed to be a bidding war between, I believe it was Florida, Texas, and UCLA, we're all in the running for Chip Kelly, because there were a lot of people that thought Chip Kelly's going to be the next Nick Saban, which is, remember that 4-year run he had at Oregon? That was magical. Went to the NFL, didn't work out. Gave it one final shot, didn't work out. Going to come back to college and going to be fine. Because that's what Nick Saban did. Nick Saban went off to the NFL, kind of chewed him up and spit him out. Didn't work. Alabama was like, how's $5 million a year sound? And Nick Saban said, great, give me that private jet. And went on one of the greatest runs, if not the greatest run in college football history. And a lot of people thought, well, that's going to be Chip again. And while there have been some okay seasons, there were some bad seasons. There was a couple of 8-win seasons, which are fine. But
they were just never elite.
They were never what Oregon was for that 4 years. And
Never.
the UCLA Bruins thought, that's who we're getting. This is who we're hiring.
That guy.
That guy that has, the flash and the speed. And it's like, yeah, game's changed a little bit since then. Which makes me wonder, right? What's to give you confidence that Chip Kelly is going to be a competent and elite offensive coordinator at Ohio State? Was it really the thing at UCLA that he just didn't have the guys? Or was it maybe, as I made the analogy to Tyson Alger, not a one-hit wonder? He's not a one-hit wonder, but you know those bands or those musical artists who had like an epic album? And then since then, you're like, yeah, never quite been the same. Not quite a one-hit wonder, but boy, they never really lived up to that other album, did they? We've all been waiting for them to recapture that magic. And well, maybe the problem was just like in the music industry and in the movie, like that album was meant for that time. Tyson Alger on Wednesday asked me, he flipped the script and said, what's Chip Kelly's legacy? It's a complicated one. I don't know if there is a comparable path. No-name offensive coordinator, and in year one, nearly has a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback and nearly has a national title for Oregon in 2007. Obviously, the greatest what if, but greatest what if in Oregon football history is 2007. Dennis Dixon nearly wins the Heisman. He is, one Arizona State tackler away for having a Heisman Trophy in Eugene. No-name offensive coordinator came in, everybody, and again, coming off of 2006, which was an embarrassing year for Oregon. And it was pitchforks and torches, and it was like, there was a lot of, is it time for Bellotti to go stuff after the end of 2006? I know that because I took the phone calls. And the offense was a problem. Culture was a problem. And Mike Bellotti went out and he hired Chip Kelly. Who is Chip Kelly? The guy from New Hampshire? Who is this guy? And came in during spring football. They showed nothing during spring football. Zero, zilch, nada. They had a game, but didn't. And all of a sudden, Oregon goes out. Opening game, 2007. I believe it was Houston. And it was like, we're all sitting in the press box and like looking around going like, gang, I don't think they huddled. Like I haven't seen a huddle. Because while the spread option or offense was getting more and more common. The no huddle, that was new. I was like,
It's insane.
guys,
Everybody wanted it. Like
we were sitting there in the press box, Brenden, going like, watch, I don't think they huddled. And it was at 2007, it was nuts.
So very much like when we talked about earlier this week with Pouncey, how my generation, it was already starting, like when we were playing basketball, it was throw up a shot, Kobe.
Kobe, yeah.
Right? I can remember because I was in middle school when Justin, when you went out and played football out at recess, it was go fast like Oregon, go razzle dazzle like Oregon. Like it was, even being an Oregon State fan, it's like, man, those guys are like so fast. And like I remember it captivating like a whole bunch of kids because it was speed.
Yeah.
And then you realize, well, those kids are the same people they recruited years later and, like the uniform. So like Oregon knew exactly what they were doing and they were at the right place at the right time.
But it's funny because nobody knew who Chip Kelly was. And
the guy from New Hampshire?
2 years later, it was like, he might be going to Syracuse. Like there was a lot of talk of like other teams coming, and we'll never know the exact details. Bellotti says he wasn't physically feeling good, had 2 knee replacement surgeries that offseason from 2008. We'll never quite know. Did Phil Knight pop in and say, hey, it's time for you to be an athletic director? But either way, Chip Kelly comes in and goes on a run of runs. Rose Bowl, national title game, Rose Bowl win, Fiesta Bowl win. Woo! A 4-year run like we have not seen at Oregon before or since. Then he goes to the NFL. Might work. Nah, fired in 3 years. Niners, fired. Back to UCLA. I think he's got it figured out. COVID hit. All right, starting to figure it out again. Can't win the big one. Did he just leave the head coaching position to become an offensive coordinator? Not in the NFL, but in college? Well, clearly he's going to the SEC. No, same conference? One of the most unique people I've ever been around is Chip Kelly, in one of the most unique college football or just football lives we have ever seen. And I still don't know if I quite have comprehended. Like Chip Kelly's going to be the offensive. He's calling plays. He'll be at Autzen Stadium in the fall when the Buckeyes come to visit.
Up in the booth too.
Calling plays, not on the sideline, but up in the booth. It's nuts. So pumped to talk to Josh Pate about that and a whole bunch of other stuff coming up in hour number 2. But there's some interesting stuff going on in the NBA. Drama in Golden State. I don't know if Klay Thompson took the, hey, we're trying to get LeBron news all that well. Plus, some interesting things going on in Milwaukee as well. So we go around the league with Round Ball Rock next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, Blazers much needed All-Star break is now currently happening. I think Scoot is the only one going to the Rising Stars game. I know Shaden was part of it, but he's injured. He's not going to be going. And obviously no other Blazers going to be participating in and around All-Star weekend. So much needed week off for the boys because it's been a rough stretch. Hey, beat Dame. Vibes were high. 6 losses in a row. And I mean, I don't want to make the mountain out of the molehill that is 1 or maybe even 2 regular season NBA games. We all know what this season is. But I think the biggest bummer about these last 2 games is it was a big old bucket of cold water going like, yeah, you're really far away. The Timberwolves are where you want to be. The Oklahoma City Thunder are where you want to be. And when you see the Timberwolves just toying around, Rudy Gobert's throwing behind the back passes in traffic off of rebounds because they're not afraid of you. I think that was maybe the biggest bummer about these last 2 games. That, and as we talked about with Sean Highkin yesterday, Timberwolves found their guy. Blazers don't have their guy. It might be Scoot. We don't know because we didn't know it was going to be Anthony Edwards 3 years ago. Remember Anthony Edwards 3 years ago, massively talented, a little kooky, great soundbite, but wasn't quite in the discussion for all NBA or MVP, which he is very much in the discussion now. We didn't know that 3 years ago.
Of course, and also got to throw in the fact that Chris Finch, not a sexy hire at the time for Minnesota. It was like, oh, here's this Toronto Raptors assistant, and hey, Justin, that dude can coach ball.
So all that being said, much needed All-Star week. But there's other drama. There's other stuff going on in and around the old NBA. So as we head into All-Star weekend, let's throw a little tash with some round ball rock. All right. Warriors won last night. Klay Thompson scored 35 points. All is well in Golden State, right? Not likely. Now, the Golden State Warriors have now crawled back to above 500. They're 27-26. I know there's some Blazer fans going like, oh, that draft pick. But it's like, pump the brakes because I see trouble in paradise because Klay has now been moved to the bench. Klay is second most important, after Steve Kerr and after Steph Curry, third most important figure in the Warriors dynasty. Now, there's Kevin Durant for 2 years. Don't get me wrong. But
Draymond
over Klay.
Yeah.
Really?
He's meant more. He has.
But Klay went out with the ACL, and they stunk, and Draymond was playing that year.
You take away Draymond, they are a glorified Damon CJ. Draymond was the
That's a hot,
catalyst.
spicy take. I like a hot take on a Friday.
I mean, that's just my opinion, but I
appreciate the opinion.
Yeah, I think Draymond's the catalyst for that team. It's close. I understand why, but, like, if they don't have Draymond, they're probably as good as the Blazers this year.
Well, Klay's not having a good season.
No.
It's not going well. Had a good game last night, and when the news dropped earlier this week about, did you see the Warriors were kicking the tires on LeBron James? They were could only imagine what was going through old Klay Thompson's head as he's now on the bench. This is an all-NBA guy. This is a guy that's got 4 rings. Whether he's more important or less important, he was a pillar of a great NBA dynasty.
I mean, we're splitting hairs. And it's the big 3, Justin.
Yeah, and he is now on the bench. And you know that if they were trading for LeBron James, that Klay was going to be the odd man out in terms of that particular deal. Don't know if he was going to be headed to Los Angeles, but he was not going to be part of a rotation. And Klay's got to be sitting there going like, wait. So Steph and Draymond were on the phone trying to bring in LeBron James, who plays my position. Excuse me. So then he's been relegated to the bench. There's multiple camera angles of him leaving Steph Curry hanging, which I love. Is that like one of the most highly rated sports passive-aggressive things? Leaving a bro hanging.
Yeah.
Leaving a
For sure.
dude hanging is like, hey, high five. No.
I'll say this, too.
That is such disrespect. He did it last night. But he dropped in 35 petty points, which I love petty points.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that even the best in the league can still get upset and be like, oh, bench me? Try to replace me? 35. Boom. Still Clay. I love it.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's going to be long lasting. I think this is going to be, I think there's trouble in paradise, if you ask me.
Yeah, I think that I think the Warriors LeBron thing is not dead. The fact that and to your point, Justin, they could have
You're
made
talking about for next season.
Yeah.
Okay.
They could have made this work with Chris Paul's money. You didn't have to trade Klay Thompson to make this work. The fact that Chris Paul makes a ridiculous amount of money, and next year too, means that they can still do this.
Okay. Question from you know me, I don't do the numbers part of this. This is why you're on the show. Even if they could have done the deal with LeBron with Chris Paul's money, basketball-wise, though, Clay is even more on the outside looking in. Because LeBron plays his spot.
You could just have LeBron play point guard and have multiple shooters around him and be the greatest thing to see. So, I mean...
It sounded to me like Clay or Steph and Draymond are, like, working the phones trying to... And, like, Clay's probably like, excuse me, boys. What are we doing? That's my position.
Again,
I play that spot.
It's show
obviously
friends.
plays very, very different.
Yeah, it's show business, not show friends.
I know, and show business can be unfriendly, and unfriendliness can lead to losses.
And the reality is, Klay Thompson has not been an All-Star in 5 years. 2019, he's had multiple severe injuries, and he's no longer what he was.
No, I understand all that. I'm saying the reality of the situation is this is a league that is run by feelings, though. You talk about it's not show friends, it's show business. You're exactly right. But this is a league that is run on feelings. We had a Doc Rivers clip, and I didn't get to it because I got all hopped up on LeBron. Anyways, we'll get to that later on in the big show. I might come up and make or miss, which is going to be in hour number 3. Josh Pate comes up in hour number 2. That's coming up next, 620 Rip City Radio. It is 7 a.m. on a Friday morning. Justin Myers with you. Portland Trailblazers fall to the Minnesota Timberwolves 128-91. Anthony Edwards led the way for the Timberwolves, 34 points. Jeremy Grant, leading scorer for your Portland Trailblazers with 20. They are now off for a week. All-Star game coming up in Indianapolis and All-Star weekend. Blazers will be back in action a week from today, taking on the Denver Nuggets. Seattle Seahawks have elected to keep Geno Smith past the deadline where he will earn $12.7 million guaranteed in a roster bonus, and all likely signs point to Geno Smith being back on the roster and likely the starting quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks. That doesn't necessarily mean they won't go quarterback in the draft. More on that coming up in the big show. And speaking of the big show, happy to have back on the program Josh Pate from Late Kick Live with Josh Pate. That's not a clever name. He's going to be joining us in 20 minutes. We've got a Hot Take Friday. We got Tech on the court for All-Star Weekend. Hour 2 starts right now at 620 Rip City Radio. You would think in almost 20 years of radio, I'd be able to hit the post. I would say I'm about, I don't know, about 70% hitting the post guy. And for those of you that don't know what that means, in music radio, and I will a little behind the scenes, there's software to where it makes it so you can't miss the post. But the old school, Brenden, the old school radio guys who knew that the intro to this song was instrumental for exactly 12 seconds, and you have got to get the weather and the traffic and promote the auto show coming up this weekend, and then the name and the song and the radio credentials all in 12 seconds right before Axl Rose goes into Welcome to the Jungle. Like that was radio talent back in the day. And the update guys that can actually do it well, I do not do it well. I improv and go off script and then get out of time, but every once in a while I nail it, but man, you would think I'd be able to hit the post after all these years. All right. Excited to have Josh Pate on the program in about 20 minutes. Big picture, small picture with Josh, because obviously there's a lot of stuff going on with small picture. Oregon's got 2 new quarterbacks. But do we have dates on the Oregon State schedule yet? For this upcoming season for the Mountain West schools? Do we have dates?
Only half.
It's 2024. It's February. I mean, when do you think they're gonna drop it? Like,
yeah, we actually have no earthly idea. Like, there's nothing in the pipeline.
Is that? Can I ask?
Boise. Hold that thought. Boise State, Air Force. So Boise State, Air Force, Nevada. 3 road games do not have a date.
Don't have dates.
And then Colorado State, San Jose State, and UNLV, all at home, do not have a date. So 6 games do not have a date.
Is that worrisome?
I mean...
Or you think it's just like, they'll figure it out?
It's...
Like, I just don't understand how you haven't figured it out by now.
Yeah, it's like not... it's kind of... should I say, like, irritating for, like, me because I'm planning ahead already? And like,
I would also for fans.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of know, like, none of them are going to be in September. It's going to be a lot in October and a lot in November. It just kind of depends on how the chips fall. But, yeah, it's kind of odd we don't have it yet.
I would imagine and guess that...
Hopefully by spring.
There's probably some negotiations going on in terms of non-conference games. Like, Boise State got bought out of the Oregon game, right? That Oregon game's not happening because we get Civil War. And it's like, we'll just move it, and I have a hunch there's probably some more of that going on, of, like, teams going like, yeah, we can do this, but we're going to have to give up, so you're going to cut a check?
And then TV's a part of it, too. All the road games are going to be Mountain West contracted, so that's not a problem. But as of right now, Justin, this is a...
It's going to be actually better.
This is a Scott Hatteberg situation. Oregon State has a home game. There's no TV network to broadcast it. So
Yeah.
It's a total Scott Atterberg situation.
Question for you. If you're Oregon State and Washington State, do you go back to Apple? And
say, here's the Pac-12 network, take it over.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying it's never going to be like the 20 million or whatever it was. But do you go back and just go, hey, Apple, here's the deal. Let's try it out. Let's see, we got some games. Let's put this on a streaming platform. The numbers are not going to be big, but they're not going to be nothing. You want
I would. Yeah, I would, because I was the one who sat here clamoring for Apple back when it could have saved the Pac-12 to an extent.
Yeah.
I think that's the future. I think we've all proven, no different than how we all turned on Peacock to watch the Bills and Miami Dolphins, And granted, they said that was the lowest viewed playoff game of recent memory, and I get that, but the transitions are slow.
I don't understand this.
Transitions are slow.
Can I tell you, this is something that I just don't get.
How people can't sign up for a streaming service?
No, I understand that.
I mean, it is $4.99, I think, for Peacock.
Yeah, but you add them all up, it gets a little spendy.
Saying.
I got
You have everything, Justin.
I know.
There's
an app, and I'm not going to give free plugs because, we're a business here. But there's an app you can get that dives into your subscriptions.
Yes.
You've probably heard people reading commercials for it. I'm not going to give it a free commercial, but I tried it out, and it was basically gave me are you sure you use all these? And I was like, yeah, use them all.
That does not surprise me.
Every single one of them.
Yeah, that.
I got no, but Justin, it's a long list. Are you sure? And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure.
There has to be one that you never use that you're like, okay, I could get rid of that.
Well, so
is it Apple?
Apple is probably the one because I had it for two things. I had it for Ted Lasso and I had it for Morning Show. And Ted Lasso's done. And I don't know if Morning Show's coming back. Won't give out any spoilers, but
So as we sit here talking about Apple, Justin might leave Apple.
Well, I might, but the fact that I have it, and if Oregon State's going to be on Apple, I would, you know what I mean? I would keep it for Oregon State, Washington State, and for college football to be able to watch it.
Do they at this point just find because I know you can do this, do they very much like how someone will, this is an example, but a company owns a hotel, but then they hire a management company to run it. Is this something where Oregon State and Washington State could say, hey, insert medium TV company here. Yeah. You guys can run Pac-12 Network under our umbrella, and there's all the equipment, there's all the data, and now instead of producing 12 different teams as games,
he's got two. Yeah.
They're not just going to let Pac-12 Network studios collect dust. That's too valuable. So,
what do you call it? Right? What do you call it?
The Great Western Network.
I don't know.
The Great Western Forum, the Great Western Network,
I don't
baby.
know. It's what do you call it? Because obviously the two-pack thing is funny, but that's internet funny. That's not, you can't name a network after it. I don't know. It's fascinating that we're sitting, it's February. Spring football is coming in less than a month.
Right, but
Oregon State and Washington State don't know half their scheduled dates.
Right, and I'm curious what happens because as of this moment, Justin, as soon as the final pitch is thrown out in the Pac-12 baseball tournament,
where do they play that at?
Scottsdale.
It's Scottsdale.
Yeah, I've always wanted to go. Maybe this year, probably not.
Where do the Diamondbacks play though?
This is spring training where the Giants, I think it's Surprise, actually.
Peoria?
Yeah.
Is that where it's at?
I think so.
I guess there's...
But that's the last thing.
Major League Baseball games going on.
After that moment, the master switch will be thrown off at Pac-12 Network. Mm-hmm. And will anybody turn the lights on again? I don't know.
That is, it's a fascinating thing because...
You know what's going to be funny is when they Pac-12 Network goes through, Justin, and they show all the spring football games this year, and they're going to be like, spring football! Oh, wait, none of these teams are in our conference.
They're not going to play any of those games, though, are they?
I'm sure
there's no way. No, if you're the Big Ten Network, you go, no. Oregon spring games on the Big Ten Network.
That's a great question.
USC's spring game, that's on the Big Ten network. Try again. There's no way.
I think they're under contract through the rest of this calendar year. I think. I don't know. But that's a great question.
That would be nuts. But, I mean, I think, like, if you're those two schools, you got – at this point, right, it's the beggars can't be choosers type of deal. If there's a network, like, I don't know, do you go back to, like, the CW? We all made fun of it. Or Ion. Wasn't it Ion?
Anything.
Or the USA Network. Shout out to the Cartoon Express. But, like, was Suits on USA?
It sure was.
Yeah. Is that the best USA Network?
What was Supernatural on?
I have no idea. I don't know what that show is.
Oh, yeah, Supernatural was great.
What was Supernatural?
The two like Ghost Hunter guys.
Okay.
Yeah, I said Supernatural. I'm surprised you don't know what it is.
You have no idea. It sounds like something I've heard of, but yeah, I have no idea about that show. But yeah, like you gotta.
That was a CW.
Okay, sounds about right. Sounds like a
Yeah.
CW show. I love the CW though. Shout out to One Tree Hill.
347 episodes.
There's so many episodes.
I know. So I said 05 to 2020. We watched a little bit in college.
There are 15 years of a show called Supernatural that I've never seen.
It's a decent show. Like I never watched it from start to finish.
Well, you know my feelings on ghosts.
Yeah, this is
like
true.
I'm
This
out
is
on
true.
ghosts.
This is
Like
true.
I watched Ghostbusters when I was a kid, and there's Slimer and
Ghostbusters.
Zool, and the Gatekeeper and the Keymaster and all that stuff. And then I was just like, and the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, of course. And then I was just out on ghosts. I'm just like, there's too many ghosts in my life in the 80s, and it was just like, can't do it anymore. I had a whole thing we were going to talk about, a whole thing, but obviously, clearly, we don't.
That's what happens on a Friday.
I mean, I would like to say it happens probably every day on this show, especially as I mentioned at the beginning of this. Look, it's not football season anymore, and the Blazers stink. So we are in explore the space territory because, I mean, I could have spent the last 13 minutes talking about how really hard the Blazers fought to come back from, but like that second and third quarter, I mean, showed some toughness, and it's like, They were down by 30. It's 44-14 to start the game. They're clearly ready for the All-Star break, right?
Are we sure they're not ready for the end of the season, Justin?
That's a good question. I hope not. I hope, like,
I don't know
for
how much.
Scoot's sake, but, like.
Did we just shut it down after we beat Milwaukee? It's like, woo, we beat Dame. And then just shut it down?
No, it's what we talked about after Milwaukee, though, which was, like, they showed what happens when you play hard and focused. Because
a bad Milwaukee team.
Scoot was jacked up. And also it's a bad matchup for Milwaukee because they don't play like a defense. Funny.
More on that later.
When you play defense, like Blazers are a tough matchup. But the Blazers showed in that game, like, when the crowd is involved and the culture is there and the atmosphere is there, and, you know, Scoot wanted to prove a point to Dame. Ant wanted to prove a point.
He totally did.
To Dame, yeah. DeAndre Ayton wanted to prove a point. Like, and it's like, okay, let's start proving points to everybody, gang. But that's not the case. It's six in a row, and they are so far from being good that there's going to have to be some tough conversations over the next couple of months. We'll probably have them on this particular show. But, you know, it's not a tough conversation. Friend of the program from Late Kick Live, Josh Pate talking some college football. Big picture, small picture coming up next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, so far, there have been 47 days in 2024. And in those 47 days in the college football world, Michigan has won a national title. Jim Harbaugh has left Michigan to go coach the Los Angeles Chargers. Nick Saban, the greatest college football coach of all time, abruptly retires. Dan Lanning, the head coach at Oregon, is rumored to be in a position to go to Alabama and instead cuts a promo and puts out a video staying at the University of Oregon days later. Kalen DeBoer, who was in the national title game with Michigan, has then taken the job at Alabama. And then Washington has hired Jed Fish. 3 of the Final 4 teams now have new head coaches. And then Chip Kelly has just left a standing head coaching position in the upcoming Big Ten to be a Big Ten offensive coordinator. Our pets' heads are falling off. Joining us now to discuss all of this and so much more, friend of the program from Late Kick Live, Josh Pate, back on the big show. Good morning, Josh. How we doing?
I'm doing good. You know what occurs to me is you very, very appropriately bring me on with that red carpet of a lead in. I think that everyone talking about media rights, who's going to own the rights to this and that, they're always talking about when the big streamers are going to get involved. When is Amazon? When is Netflix? When are they going to bid on a college football package? You know, if any of these commissioners or any of the powers that be sat at the table across from these people and pitched it like you just presented it, they'd be all in. That is a Netflix series. It is an Amazon Prime series. In fact, it's probably better than almost anything they have going right now.
I mean, it is amazing because you know, Josh, I like to take inventory, right? You and I, we don't know each other all that well in these conversations we have on the air, but I know you are no stranger to a weight room. I know you are no stranger to health and fitness and diet and exercise as I am. And every once in a while when, you know, things start getting off the rails, it's important to kind of take inventory, write it down. What are you eating? And they're like, oh, that's why. And I felt like in college football heading into this spot, it's easy to throw up your hands and go, boy, college football is really off the rails. Let's take some inventory, and when you do that, boy, you look at these last 6-7 weeks, it has kind of been nuts. I didn't even mention the transfer portal stuff. Oregon's got 2 new quarterbacks.
Yeah, and got a really good one in Gabriel that's ready to go right away. You know, we were talking about this on my show last night, and so I've noticed this thing that happens a lot, and it's this group of people. And I don't want to call them casuals, actually, because sometimes casuals are just misguided. I think these people may be intentional in the way they operate. But nevertheless, there's this group of people that had a chance to act a decade to 2 decades ago and probably alleviate some of this from coming down the pike. They did not act. Instead, they pushed for certain things and certain mechanisms in our sport. And then that led to a disproportionate focus being on the playoff or whatever. And then they started being okay with calling games meaningless towards the end of the year if they didn't have those playoff implications. And now that's the same group of people who are going to sit here and tell you, mark my words, over the coming years, we can't just sit at 12. We got to go to 16 because we need more meaningful games in November. And the same people who stripped the meaning away from the games are going to tell you they've got the answer to injecting meaning back in. Now, you know from talking to me, that's my own little personal soapbox. That's just the playoff stuff. But I think it also overlaps with the inaction that was taken in the revenue sharing front a long time ago. And now all of a sudden you've got this giant, like, just plate full of crap in front of you that you've got to deal with as a coach that you have no control over. And yeah, I don't know how much you paid attention to this, but yesterday down here in the South, we had a head coach at Georgia State named Sean Elliott leave. And he's had winning seasons 4 of the past 5 years. He leaves to go be I believe the tight ends coach and the run game coordinator at South Carolina. And he said all the right things. He was diplomatic about it, but to cut through all the BS, what he really said was, I am not going to coach at a place at the G5 level where my fate is totally out of my hands. Like, at least these big guys complain in the SEC and the Big Ten, but they get to be the ones feeding. I am the feeder system. I'm the place you come to steal players at the 11th hour when one of your guys got taken or one of your guys hit the portal. And, you know, it's really unfair for those guys right now because no one cares at the end of the day. Like, if you build your roster the right way, you develop them the right way, you're building towards 2024 and you got everything in line, and then people gut your roster, no one cares. They just call you a 4-8 coach. And a lot of the guys at that level are saying, screw that. I'd much rather go be a position coach at one of these major places because I've probably still got a better long-term shot at leading towards being a big-time coordinator or head coach at that level than I do having a head coaching position already at this level and trying to work my way up, which I don't think we've ever said before.
Josh Pate is the host of Late Kick Live, joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. And, Josh, I remember I don't know if it was before the national title game, before the playoff, but I was watching the show, and you threw out, and you said, mark my words, there in kind of the spirit of what you just said there will be a head coach, and I think it was probably after Saban retired, and you said there's going to be a coach who's going to say, look, I'm not built for this. This is different than what I've ever done. These old school coaches who knew how to pound the pavement and recruit and are now dealing with middlemen and NIL and collectives and everything else. And you said, mark my words, somebody is going to maybe go to the bench till college football has it figured out. Not quite the bench, but do you get the feeling that's what Chip Kelly did? He was the head coach at UCLA who was going to the Big Ten. I know there's been some turmoil, and a lot of people down there tried to fire him around November, and then he beat USC. But I get the sense what you were talking about earlier about a coach just kind of saying, you know what, I'm not ready for this. I get that feeling with Chip Kelly.
Yeah, I think a little bit of it is there. I still think there's a much more glaring example of it, or maybe a few more glaring examples of it still to come.
Yeah.
And the reason I speak so confidently in that is because I'm not guessing on it. I mean, I'm talking to these guys directly. And some of them are probably just issuing baseless threats. I know some others aren't. So with Kelly, Chip Kelly's never fully been on board with, the way college football works. Chip Kelly, I thought, was in his sweet spot at Oregon, where he was revolutionary in his offensive approach, and therefore he was at a place where they could kind of moneyball it to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
They could afford to go take guys that weren't five-star players because in their system, your three-star receiver is my five-star receiver if I'm Chip Kelly. Well, the game kind of caught up, as it always does, and I don't think he was ever fully on board with embracing where this direction was going. So he goes to Ohio State. He's financially set. He just wants to go coach ball. What I'm telling you is coming is I think a guy or two who have been premier recruiters, who have never shied away from, the backslapping and the glad handing of the booster circuit. They're very personable. They're willing to get in there and work long hours. I think one or two of them at the apex of their careers in the not too distant future, if this doesn't change, they're going to say, I'm leaving. I'm not going to another job. I'm not going to the NFL. I'm not sick. Nothing's wrong with me health-wise. I just don't recognize the sport right now. And they're going to take themselves to Bristol, Connecticut, or L.A., or wherever. They're going to sit in a TV studio for a little while, not retire. I think they'll end up coming back. Like, I think they'll do what Chris Peterson did, only I think they'll come back to the game, and I think they're just going to go wait it out. And look, if I'm being honest with you, it's very unconventional, but that's not the worst approach in the world.
So, Josh, I'm curious your thoughts on this. This is why I had you on as a guest. It's a terrible way to intro this next question. But we were talking about it earlier in the show and talking about it with somebody earlier in the week. Some coaches care very, very much about legacy. Some coaches don't bother with it, and it's about, the process and everything else. But looking at it right now, you talked about Chip Kelly and kind of the Moneyball type of approach they had, and I was there for every one of those games. It was a fun ride, let me tell you. And then goes to the NFL, gets fired in Philly, gets fired in San Francisco. Maybe it's going to be the comeback to college where college will embrace you. Never quite clicked at UCLA to the Oregon level, which again may not just been a moment in time. What's the Chip Kelly legacy? Because you've got those 4 years there at Oregon. You've got everybody in college football runs no huddle, shotgun, spread option type of stuff, and a lot of that was Rich Rodriguez, Chip Kelly, Urban Meyer. Like, what's the legacy of Chip Kelly? Is now he has left the head coaching position to be an offensive coordinator.
Yeah, it's a good question. So I'll always think of Chip Kelly with an Oregon logo on his chest. That's Chip Kelly to me. It's a guy who revolutionized things out west, and everyone tried to steal a chunk of. I think Chip Kelly was and is a very, very high-level offensive mind. I think that as the game changed around him and as more spotlight shone on him, I don't think Chip Kelly was fully ready to embrace all of that. And by that, I just mean the totality of what it takes to operate a major college football program and win at the highest level. Now, if you want to win 7 or 8 on average and then every once in a while pop a 10 or 11 win season, you can do that with his approach, but you're not going to consistently be a double-digit win team, and you're not going to exist in a major market, in a major recruiting market, and not really get with that. So for those reasons, I think he's going to go kill it at Ohio State. Now, he will never have had talent like he's about to coach aside from being in Philadelphia, and the difference is he'll have a huge talent edge about 10 or 11 Saturdays out of the year that he never had in the NFL. They had equal guys lining up across the ball there. I think he almost, if he wants to, if he has the longevity and enough tread on the tires, he could almost still be in position to create his legacy if you think about it. What if they run off 5 years here and he just stays there? He's content. And he goes 5 years as the OC there. They win a couple of national titles, and he is linked at the hip with Ryan Day finally becoming a premier national title winning head coach, and he's just over there calling ball plays, and he set himself up financially where he could do what he wanted to do on the back end of his career. I think then you just solidify his legacy as brilliant offensive mind, had some success way early as a head coach, figured out that wasn't for him, and then settled into his sweet spot later in his life.
Josh, I don't know if you've did you watch Entourage? Were you an Entourage fan?
No, I've got that and The Wire on my to-watch list still.
All right, well, I had a great Chip Kelly is Vinny Chase from Entourage, but since it's not in your frame of reference, we're going to go ahead and skip past that. Plus, it's a bit of a stretch when I do my my analogies. Josh Pate from Late Kick Live joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. One of the other big things that happened here in the Pacific Northwest, Josh, I mentioned Dan Lanning. I don't know if he was ever offered the job at Alabama. I don't know if it was how real it got. I don't know but if you ask Oregon fans, Alabama might as well have offered him everything, and he decided, no, I'm staying in Eugene, and that's the narrative as opposed to who knows what reality is, but perception is reality in college football. And then Kalen DeBoer ultimately gets the job down there at Alabama. You are there in the South, and we have seen coaches. Now, I know that Kalen DeBoer is not a Pacific Northwesterner like I am, but we have seen coaches, Josh, from the Pacific Northwest head down to the South and culturally maybe not quite fit in. Where do you see the Kalen DeBoer, Alabama, following Nick Saban fit there for the next couple of years?
All right, so let me tell you how these people down here do it. These are my people. I can speak for them.
I love it.
My people down here, we love to gatekeep, and anyone who is not from like Biola Battery, Alabama, or Ocala, Florida, if you did not grow up down here, you don't know how to pronounce Cairo, Georgia, and then it's not Cairo, you can't win in the SEC. Well, that's never been the case, actually. What happens is a lot of folks get down here and they get choked to death by how rabid the culture is and how 24/7, 365 the lifestyle of college football down here is. But I remember, I was still a kid, but I remember when Urban came into the league from Utah, and I remember all the older folks laughing at him, making fun of him, talking about how his quote-unquote Mickey Mouse offense wasn't going to work in the SEC. And instead, what he did was he revolutionized the SEC. Saban, the same way. The SEC had to adjust to those guys, not the other way around. Now, DeBoer, he's coming in, and because he doesn't have a track record of recruiting at a high level, that's the talk down here right now. Is he going to be able to recruit? And to me, I'm not really worried about it. I know the infrastructure at Alabama is set up for him to do it, but the thing that's cost guys being able to recruit in the past is they lacked one of two things. Either they didn't know people, and I don't mean know people, I mean know people like be able to connect with them. Either they didn't know people or they didn't understand the level of the grind down here. I don't think Kalen DeBoer will ever back away from hard work, and I think he's wonderful with people. and he's got the resources he needs, those are the ingredients to recruit well. They'll recruit fine down here. The difference is, and this is something we probably don't have time to fully touch on now, but there's a philosophy in the South right now that if we've moved into the NIL era and you can pretty much buy your roster more so than you ever could before, there's not a ton of skill on the recruiting side anymore. They've always said down here, you got to win with players, not scheme. And that meant they prioritize hiring recruiters over hiring X's and O's guys sometimes. Well, now if there's not a lot of talent in it, you just go buy your roster. The emphasis in some people's minds is shifting back more towards hiring a tactician, hiring an X's and O's guy, and providing him his roster is going to be secondary. And if that is the thinking, it makes a lot of sense Alabama went the direction they went. But I don't have an ounce of concern that he'll be outmanned on Saturdays. They'll be fine there. I'm actually excited to see what he does.
Josh Pate from Late Kick Live joining us on 620 Rip City Radio. We have the Willamette Valley and the Willamette River, Josh. That's our litmus test as to whether or not you're kind of one of us. If you come in here and say Willamette, then you get like kind of that. And you're a Georgia guy. Is it DeKalb? Is that the litmus test for Georgians? Is it because we all want to say DeKalb?
Yeah, well, yes. Okay, so in the Atlanta area, yes. In Columbus, Georgia, they outright cheat where I'm from. Okay, so they've got a road that is spelled Beunavista road, which would be Buena Vista in every other walk of life. They just chose to pronounce it Buena Vista Road and call other people idiots when they pronounce it Buena. So there is no winning down here. You just have to come in humbly, apologize when you pronounce things right in many cases, and then finally you get a seat at the table.
We also have Couch, which is Cooch Street in Portland. So, yeah. No, exact. It was a man's name. We understand that. But, yeah, everybody's going to call it Couch until you correct him. All right, Josh, one last thing before we let you go, because I want to end on some positivity. There's a lot of stuff in our college football world that seems unsettling. But you had a great Twitter thread and then a great segment on the show, which is why we all come back to college football because of its greatness. You asked what makes college football great. I would say everything. That's maybe a little bit too much, but I'm going to give you my answer, and then I'm just kind of curious where you ultimately ended up as we sit here in 2024. But for me, Josh, what makes college football great? It's an experience. You can't quantify it. It's an experience. You have to go to the State Fair of Texas to understand that rivalry game. You have to go to, I know we're not supposed to call it anymore, but the Civil War game after Thanksgiving to understand what it's like up here in the Pacific Northwest, or the Oregon-Washington game. To me, that's the best part of college football, and what makes it great is you have to be there. You can't you can be there on social media, you can watch it on TV, but you can get the gist of the Super Bowl watching it on TV. You cannot get the gist of the Rose Bowl until you are there, boots on the ground. And if, for my money, experience, that's the best part of college football.
Yeah, so I agree with that. I was thinking about this. I think football as a game translates to TV the best of any of the major sports. So TV and football were made for each other. I think baseball is much better experienced in person. Well, the funny thing is, football at the college level is a game that's tailor-made for TV, and yet you still don't get what college football is about until you witness it in person, because it's got so much of the, like, close your eyes factor, as I call it, and it's got so much pageantry and trappings around it, and not to be just confined to in the stadium. Man, the tailgating scene outside these places is wild, too. The way that the energy builds in a small college town throughout the day on a Friday, when you've got the massive influx of people coming into a town that otherwise would be a map dot on a state road map, and then all of a sudden it's the second or third biggest town in the state. I love also the asymmetrical sort of old meets new building structure that a lot of these stadiums have. They look like, erector sets where one part was built in 2003 and it's joined with something that was built in 1939. The really cramped conditions in locker rooms, the in-stadium traditions themselves. Some of these older stadiums, man, you don't have the best creature comforts, but that's good because it filters out the wine and cheese crowd and just gives you a hardcore college football crowd. That stuff, there's nothing like that. In the American landscape of sports or anywhere else, there's nothing like that to me.
You can follow Josh on Twitter at Late Kick Josh. You can catch a show on YouTube, Late Kick Live. There is no off season. That's why college football, again, one of the other reasons why it's so great, because there is no off season. Heck, Coaching Carousel made it to February, for crying out loud. Josh, hey, thanks so much. I really, really appreciate your time. Love talking college football with you. Have a great weekend, and we'll look forward to talking to you again soon.
All right, guys. Hey, keep getting ready for spring ball. It's right around the corner.
Right around the corner. Good off-season participation in conditioning drills as well. Looking forward to it, Josh. Thanks so much.
Appreciate it, guys.
All right, there you go. Oh, I love good off-season conditioning participation. It just gets me pumped up. I know there's a lot of stuff that's changed in college football, and I know there's like conference realignment. And I've been a doom and gloom guy. I have been. But, hey, spring football. Scrimmaging, spring game. Are we going to the spring game? We got great participation in off-season workouts. All right, coming up next, we wrap up hour number 2. Ooh, we got a Hot Take Friday to wrap up hour number 2. That's next, 620 Rip City Radio. right, time to wrap up hour number 2. And it is a feel-good Friday, and it is a fancy coffee Friday. And I don't know if you can tell, I'm a little jacked. I don't know if they upped the fancy coffee at the particular Starbucks coffee conglomerate that I went to. Shout out 36 and the Pal. They're good. They know what they're doing. But Brenden, fancy coffee is just, it is on fire right now on this particular Friday. But much like the fancy coffee, on a Friday, we like to have some scorching hot takes. Now, are these takes about anything of relevance or all that important? No. We like to have passionate hot takes about things that maybe aren't that necessary. It's a whole lot of fun, and it doesn't even have a clever name. It's just informative. It's time for Hot Take Friday. Let's go. All right. I'm ready to say it. Hot take, Brenden. It's time to get rid of all-star games. It's time for them to go. Their time has come. We have moved past certain things that are no longer necessary and are no longer relevant. And if every single all-star game, and I'm including the Pro Bowl, and I'm including the NBA All-Star Game, and I'm including Major League Baseball's All-Star Game, and I'm including even the NHL All-Star Game, if every single All-Star Game has to be tweaked and fixed every single year, that thing's broken. It's broken. And we just need to get rid of them. They were necessary at one particular time when there were 4 channels. All right, when there were 4 channels, and your only time to watch Larry Bird play basketball, if you didn't get the Celtics on Saturday afternoon NBA on NBC, which we play Round Ball Rock each and every day, you needed the All-Star Game. Major League Baseball, American League didn't play the National League, and there wasn't a lot of player movement back in the 80s and even into the 90s. American League players stayed in the American League. National League players stayed in the National League. They had different umpires, for crying out loud. Different rules. One had a DH, one didn't. All-Star Game, American League, National League. Let's come together and play. Guess what? They all play each other. Everybody, all these players move around. All these teams play each other. There is too much money in all these sports. There is no incentive to win. The incentive is to not get hurt. Heck, the Pro Bowl has become flag football at this particular point. We don't need all-star games anymore. The internet, especially along with cable TV, and I know the cable TV is going away. See, because cord cutting, cable TV becoming obsolete. We don't need all-star games anymore. It's time to get rid of them. It's just time. I don't like it because I grew up on all-star games and all-star game moments. Magic Johnson, 1992. Never forget game-winning 3 after his HIV diagnosis, and then came back to play in what we thought was the last time we're ever going to see Magic Johnson play basketball. And he had a game-winning 3. That's unbelievable. All-star. We're never going to have that ever again. It's over. You have to fix it every single year. Guess what? It's broken. And I know this because I try to be handy around my house, and it was like, oh, I can fix it. I can fix it. I can. By time number 3, that thing's broken. We don't need all-star games anymore. You're never going to get these players to care. And quite frankly, I don't blame them for not caring. You want to put a middle-of-the-season league celebration party in a city? Fine. But the all-star game ain't it. Major League, and I'm not just talking about the NBA, but I brought it up because it's All-Star Weekend. Inevitably, there is going to be some blog post, some column, somebody talking about this is what they need to do to fix the All-Star game, or why doesn't any of the stars go into the dunk contest anymore? And all that, and there might be a fun moment here or there, but how do we get these guys to care? You don't. What if we pay them more? They make $49 million a year. Right? I'm sorry. You can't match that money. You can't. Major League Baseball players are playing with guaranteed contracts. You think they're going to come in and try to pitch 2 innings and blow up their arm and miss a... No. And then on the flip side, NFL guys have non-guaranteed contracts, and the last thing they want to do is tear an ACL playing in a meaningless Pro Bowl. It was fun while it lasted. I love all-star games. I loved all-star games. A big part of my childhood and growing up was getting excited for the all-star game because it was all of them. And guess what? We got League Pass now. I watched TNT on basic cable yesterday, and I watched 5 stars play. Now, Damon Giannis didn't look all that good, though. Are you with me on this? Let's just get rid of all-star games. Let's just take them out back and end the misery. They are a net negative at this particular point.
Yeah, I don't really have a strong opinion on it either way.
I think that's a good point. I think that kind of maybe goes to my point, is the fact that you're kind of meh on all-star games were other than the finals in the NBA, the all-star, and maybe even more than the finals, because if your team wasn't in it, the all-star game, you did not miss. You didn't miss the three-point contest. You didn't miss the dunk contest, all that stuff. And since then, a generation of fans are like, nah. Season's long enough as it is. Let's just take that week that everybody gets off, filter those into maybe some more rest days. Maybe we'll get less guys load managing. Well, that's never going to happen. But just keep the season rolling at this particular point. All-star games, it's been real, but it's time for you to move on to the land of DVDs, to the land of VHS players, to the land of 8-track tapes, because it's over. The land of landlines. We go to the land of hour number 3 next, 620 Rip City Radio. It is 8 a.m. on a Friday morning. Justin Myers with you. The Portland Trail Blazers go down to the Minnesota Timberwolves last night, 128-91. Anthony Edwards, yet again, led the way for the Timberwolves. Held him under 40, though. Take that. He had 34. Jeremy Grant led the way for the Blazers with 20. Now off to the All-Star break. Next up, they'll be taking on the Denver Nuggets on Friday, a week from today. Seattle Seahawks have elected to keep Geno Smith on the roster past his guaranteed deadline. He will now earn $12.7 guaranteed $1 million in a roster bonus, likely having him starting at quarterback for the Seahawks heading in to next season. And coming up in hour number 3, I know I just said All-Star games need to go away, but a fascinating bit of technology on a portion of the court at All-Star Saturday. We've got Make or Miss. We've got an RCM mailbag. We got an hour left before the weekend. Let's fire it up. It's Rip City Mornings. You know, I've got a love-hate relationship with technology. I am the last of the Gen X. I am 44 years of age. I was born in the last year of the 70s, grew up in the 80s. My life had both the internet and not the internet. My life had both cell phones and landlines. So I have an interesting straddle on technology and people of my age and my generation, right? The younger Gen Xers, some say the elder millennials, even though millennials got such a bad rap for so long. It's like, I ain't one of them. But you know, the tweeners like me, us in our mid-40s, who were born in the 70s, childhood in the 80s, adolescence in the 90s, I know how to stream a show. And, we talked about the streaming on with regard to football. And it's like, yeah, I'm old enough to remember when you had to go play outside and drink from the water hose, yet I also know how to stream stuff on the TV. This contraption, I'm not there yet. There will be something, I don't know, probably sooner rather than later, that is going to befuddle me. I watch a lot of TikTok videos. Don't know how those kids edit those things. I'm fascinated at the speed of editing. I see these kids, it's Instagram in the wild, right? And when I was in Greece on my honeymoon, it was it was nothing but Instagram in the wild, but it's beep, 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 beep. And one picture and light there, little back, and it's boom, perfect portrait. So that's a little much for me, but I understand how obviously technology works, and technology and sports is an interesting relationship because sports inevitably is anti-technical, right? It is about human beings and physical accomplishments. You play football, it's you, hand in the dirt, going toe-to-toe with another guy and an inflated leather object, which is the least technical thing there ever could be, is in your hands, and you're just trying to move humanity 100 or so yards one way or 100 or so yards the other. But obviously technology has crept into our sports in regard to broadcasting and TV, and now I don't know if you've seen the All-Star court. Now, I don't know if this is for the All-Star game or I think it's just for All-Star Saturday, but we got to light up LED court. It can show replays. It can show statistics. We see it on the broadcast now where guy goes to shoot and Anthony Simons shoots from this spot. It's he's 32% from right there. Well, apparently it's going to be actually on the court in the arena. And, we were talking with Josh Pate last hour, and I've said, one of the things that and maybe the most important thing, and why I love college football so much, is you got to experience it. Yeah, it translates over to TV. Football does, but you're never going to quite get a college football rivalry watching it on TV. You're not going to quite get the pageantry and the tailgating and the atmosphere unless you're there, boots on the ground. But watching football at home, and then you go watch a football game in real life. Brenden, how often do you look for that yellow line on a football field in real life? Because I do. I'll go to Autzen Stadium and I'll start
Not so much.
Really? I look for that yellow line all the time. Oh, that's right. It's not in real life.
Not so much. I mean, there's times when it's when they're close and it's you'd like to have it, but in general, I'm not out there on first down looking for it.
Or how about the opposite? When you're watching a game at home and you see it's 3rd and 6, receiver catches the ball 5 yards and then takes a step backwards, and you're like, dude! You're like, yeah, he can't see the yellow line.
That more so, yeah.
That one,
yeah.
So, if we have the ability right now to have an LED floor in the NBA with real-time statistics popping up, can we get the yellow line in real life on a football field? Do you think that technology exists? Do you think they're holding back on us? Is there a possible way on a football field we can have an illuminated yellow line that people can see? I challenge scientists. I do. It's something I have been not screaming about, but it's been a passionate thing over the last 5 to 10 years. Is how do we not have a yellow line in real life? They got to be able to have that technology. You know what I mean?
I just don't think it's important enough.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's important enough to the NFL's kind of old school, right? And you notice it takes a lot to get things changed.
I know.
And it's you said earlier, I don't ever see them getting rid of the chains.
No. Well, okay, so let's talk about that. It's another beef I have. Like I said, I've got a love-hate relationship with technology. It seems objectively silly that we have sticks and chains. I talk about it with coaches all the time. Why are coaches so maniacal? Because 1 or 2 inches might mean the difference in a drive extending, a touchdown being scored, a game being won, a championship being 1 to 2. Dan Lanning at Oregon, how different is in his life is it if Bo Nix picks up a first down against Washington on 4th down up there in either one of those games? Right? How different? That's inches we're talking about.
Ifs and ands were pots and pans.
But that's my point, though, is it's a game where narratives and paychecks and legacies and everything is dependent upon just a few inches here or there. And that's why coaches are nuts, because a few inches get you a first down. A first down extends a drive. An extended drive might get you points. Those points might get you a win. That win might get you into a championship game. It might get you into a bowl game. That's why coaches are nuts. And those inches are determined by sticks and chains. You know what I mean? Think about the millions and millions of dollars that are at stake based upon A, sticks and chains, and B, middle-aged referees who are incredibly talented, by the way, but middle-aged referees running at nearly a full sprint, just eyeballing where they think the person went down. And I don't want to take away anybody's job, and I know technology is not perfect, but how do we not have microchips and lasers at this point? I mean, isn't it kind of nuts that you think about how they spot a football? Well, we just eyeball it. And they're incredibly
Or even a couple
good.
years ago, using an index card when that became really famous. That was super funny. Yeah.
But you know, you watch, the spot is everything in football, especially on a 3rd down or a 4th down play. And officials are incredibly good. Let me just throw that out there. It's umpires get a lot of flack in baseball about balls and strikes, like, for the most part, they're like incredibly good. Standing behind a catcher, see, like, balls and strikes, they're incredibly good. Never going to be as good as a computer. Never going to be as good as, what is it, the batter's box or the balls and strike technology you watch on TV. But, like, for human beings standing back there, it's pretty unbelievable. And I've always been impressed with the way that football officials can spot a ball. But, like, how do we not have, like, lasers and microchips figuring these things out? Now, maybe that's just because there's the drama built in, right? Because we are, in sports, in the entertainment business. And maybe that takes away some of the entertainment. There is still always something to, all right, let's jog out the chains. Pop that one right there. All right, let's stretch them out. Oh, no. Like, there is, you know what I mean? There is something entertainment value about that, but, like, we always talk about how, like, well, these fans don't. Media members do. Fans never talk about how long football games are. I'm going to tell you that right now. Fans don't care. Media members do because they have flights to catch and they have deadlines to hit. And a lot of media members are kind of grumpy. But, like, fans, like, oh, we got to shorten up these games. Media members care. TV executives care. Because if you can get a game down to under 3 hours, guess what? You can pop another game there at the end of the day. Well, instead of changing the essence and the rule, like, can't we just get some lasers to where it's like, I know we lose the entertainment value of, like, is that a first down? Is it not? We're not quite sure. Time out. All right, chain gang, come out. And these guys, they're not in the best of shape, but they're just jogging out there. It's like, how about we just go, all right, ball spotted, laser. Not a first down. Here we go. Third down.
I mean, that technology exists.
It exists.
Because, Teslas can drive without someone driving it.
Thank you.
But at the same token,
Thank you, Brenden.
why would Elon Musk share that technology with the NFL?
I'm sure there is some sort of public technology that is out there. I don't know if it's proprietary, Brenden. Yeah, Teslas can drive and know what every car that's around them. Yeah, we need sticks and chains in football. We can't just get a laser to, like, third and inches. All right, moving on. Play clock's going. You want to get these games done? Microchip the spot and lasers. How about, or like, in the Philadelphia Eagles with the tush push, right? It's like, we'll know exactly where they're down, and we'll know if they made the first down, and we're moving on. We don't have to pull off the scrum and everything else. If the NBA can put actual statistics on the field, we got to at least get some lasers in football. You know what I mean? Third and one, or fourth and one, they're going for it. Did he make it? No. And I know it's not as dramatic, and I know we'll lose that stretch the chain out, but, like, how do we even know that chain's legit? Like, that's another thing we never question in sports. You know what I mean? And you, Brenden, you've seen the close-ups on TV. Half of them have, like, athletic tape on them, and maybe there's a couple links that had to be repaired. Like, how do we even know that thing's 10 yards? Just get some lasers out there. Just fix it. If we can put massive amounts of technology into a basketball court on All-Star game,
so can I?
We get lasers measuring first downs. That's all I'm asking.
So I'm gonna go
baby steps here.
I'm gonna go contrarian here, Justin, and say, why are you trying to fix something that doesn't need to be fixed? It's just fine the way that it is.
You think so?
Kinda, yeah.
You think it's just fine? Could it be better though?
What, 150 years of NFL football, something like that?
But it could be better.
Dangerous game to play, my friend.
It is true. I'm usually
you're the one that always says, leave it alone. Well,
I am.
Football's great the way that it is, Justin.
Good point.
I hear you.
I don't know. I don't want to fix all of football.
The NBA is where we test things out. The NFL doesn't test things out.
I just figure, like, ball spotted, there's a GPS microchip in the ball.
Until someone hacks the GPS and figures out a way to edit it for their team, and yeah.
Okay, in all let me ask you this. I don't want to be my last conspiracy theory, but a lot of people are talking about because of the what game was it where they're like put the microphones in the helmets or the remember there was a college football thing where and they were like what we just need to get the speakers in the helmets. I know Nick Saban had talked about it and it's like why are we still trying? Oh, it's the sign stealing, the Michigan stuff. Yeah, it was the Connor Stallions. Boy, we forgot about Connor Stallions.
That's what happens when a bunch of cheaters actually win the title.
But with all the sign stealing, so like, do you think there has been a time, or maybe is currently a time, where maybe one school knows what the other school's frequency is?
Oh yeah,
you think
totally?
You think that's going on right now?
Totally.
I think so too. I think it's happening right now.
I mean, maybe not. Maybe that's me just being I think it would be too. I think it'd be very naive to think it's never happened,
or isn't currently happening. I don't know. It's crazy. All right, you know what is going to happen though? Something that isn't broke, and we ain't fixing it. It's Make or Miss next. 620 Rip City Radio. right, very happy to have Josh Pate on the show in hour number 2. Fascinating college football conversation. If you missed any of it, well, you can go check out the YouTube clip. You can go on to Rip City Radio and find the podcast, which will be thrown out there. But because of a little switcheroo, we now have a special 8 o'clock edition of Make or Miss. Here we go.
All right, fired up Make or Miss here on a Friday. Remember when we all said that Doc Rivers wouldn't fix a historically bad defense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we were right.
Seems to be a make. They're 3-7 since he took over. Now,
turns out as when you have your point guard who's not a great defender, it still doesn't quite work.
Yeah, they got a lot of problems there. And
I'm actually happy to see it. Not gonna lie, it brings me a little bit of joy, Justin. Here on a happy Friday.
It is a happy Friday. So let's take a look at the standings right now. They're still third in the East. They are 35-21. They are 2.5 games behind the Cleveland Cavaliers for second place. Nobody's catching Boston. Like,
Boston is so good.
Boston's
we tried, and Justin.
Boston is so good.
Portland has a hand in this too because they took Malcolm Brogdon and upgraded him with Jrue Holiday.
Yeah.
It's like level up, Mario, eat the mushroom. And yeah, they're really, really good.
So like nobody's catching Boston, but like the Bucks, I mean, they're still the second best team in the East, wouldn't you say?
I like the Knicks.
They're better than. I'm not going to put a lot into.
I like the Knicks.
That game last night. That was. Do you have that Doc Rivers clip?
I do actually.
All right, because Doc Rivers.
Yes, hold that thought.
Was clearly frustrated with maybe the effort that the Bucks had last night, and he had some thoughts as to maybe other things on his players' minds. Obviously, Giannis and Dame are going to Indianapolis for the All-Star game, but there's a whole rest of the roster that may or may not have had something else in their mind. Here's Doc Rivers after the game.
We come back in this on our set. 2 guys forget what we're running. Then we miss the shot, and then nobody gets back. That's how we start out the third quarter. That tells you all you need to know about where our heads were. We had some guys here, and we had some guys in Cabo.
Already in Cabo.
Man, it's a great spot, I must say. But yeah, like Justin, right now you're asking me, I like the Cavs more than that. I think they're a more complete team. I think after the OG Anunoby trade, I think the Knicks are a better team than the Bucks. And when Embiid is back, I take the Sixers over the Bucks.
I didn't realize this, and I'm just looking at it now. Sorry, I'm not familiar with their game. The Shaq quote. Cavs are 9-1 their last 10 games.
Cavs are really good.
They're on one right now. Meanwhile, the last 10 games, the Milwaukee Bucks are 3-7. Those 10 games happen to be the games that Doc Rivers has taken over. Also, in those games, they have a loss to the Blazers, who are 15-37 now. Is that and a loss to the Memphis Grizzlies, who are right there. Where's Memphis? The 20-36.
It's the defense with Milwaukee that continues to be like, again, they allow 118, almost 119 points per game. For perspective, folks, your Blazers have a 3 points per game better defense, which might not seem like a lot, but it is. Like, they don't play defense, and when you get to the postseason, that's what matters. So again, it's early to declare, teams cooked or not, but in years past, it was this point in the year when Justin declared the Lakers cooked. So,
well, see, so here's the thing. Right, this is why the NBA is fascinating. Last year, I cooked the Lakers, and I was wrong. They made it to the Western Conference Finals. I didn't think they were going to make the playoffs.
Cook them this year, you'll be fine.
No, not even. That's still Anthony Davis, and that's still LeBron James, and I know they're aging, but that's still a tough 1-2 matchup right there. Regardless, I cooked the Lakers, and I was like, they're done. They made it to the Western Conference Finals. But you remember a couple years ago when we were like, the Nets, this isn't working. And we saw that it wasn't working, and clearly it wasn't. And the Nets, In 4, out. First round, exit. See ya. Because we're like, yeah, they don't play together. So there's two sides to that coin, right? There may be some glaring weaknesses that maybe some star power is overcoming and keeping them at third place in the East right now that may ultimately lead to their demise in the postseason, or they figure some things out. It's just 10 games with Doc Rivers. Who knows? But you've taken a team that was a championship team 2 years ago. Now, Giannis has played with good players, never played with another superstar, right? Chris Middleton's the best player Giannis has ever played with in his time at Milwaukee. So you take Giannis, who's never played with a superstar, pair him up with Dame, who's never played with another superstar, take away your best perimeter defender in said trade, and then fire your head coach, who 2 years ago won a championship and may or may not know some things about, I don't know, what makes Giannis tick. Bring in Adrian Griffin, first-year coach, who then fires Terry Stotts, who, I don't know, may know a thing or two about what makes Dame tick, right? It's just all the knowledge is just out the door. Then you fire your first-year coach, bring in Doc Rivers. Doc Rivers is like, all right, this house is on fire. I did not start the fire. I can maybe put it out. I could maybe not, but
the fire.
That's a good song. That's still a banger.
Oh, it is. It hits.
But you're going to pay me a lot of money just to even get off my couch. And the Bucks are like, sure. And I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know, because there's a lot of Milwaukee people on the Twitter, Brenden, that are not happy with the Damian Lillard trade.
And I love this because this is, I feel like almost like the evil genius sitting at top of his lair right now, because, Justin, the Milwaukee Bucks, very much like the Los Angeles Lakers, are all in on winning a championship right now. They have traded away their future. They have traded away their distant future. Portland owns part of their distant future, as do other teams. If it doesn't work, like say it doesn't work this year, and they're like, this combination of Dame, Giannis, and this cast doesn't work, their avenues to building a team are so slim. It's not like they can go, hey, we're going to cut everybody, have cap space. No, you have Dame and Giannis making 50-some each, right? So it's like, if this doesn't work, they are going to be stuck in neutral. So Giannis and Dame will always have a chance, but unless they can get remember when Bobby Portis was a dude that everybody wanted? Now he's just kind of another guy. Chris Middleton's been injured. Brook Lopez has gotten old. Robin Lopez, I love him, not really worth a roster spot. Thanasis Antetokounmpo, not worth a roster spot.
Not worth a roster spot. Boy,
so, anyway, that's my rant on the Bucks.
Charles Barkley said, what is it, Thanasis? He said he has better job security than the Supreme Court.
Okay.
Supreme Court lifetime appointment.
That's a lifetime.
In case anybody skipped social studies.
Oh, bad.
Yeah. So,
better or worse than Kelvin Blevins?
Let me ask you that. Now, anything can happen in the postseason, right? Anything can happen in the postseason. And maybe in the postseason is when the superstars show up. But let's take a look at the good teams, the great teams in the NBA right now. Minnesota Timberwolves have got a guy in Anthony Edwards. He's a superstar. Karl Anthony Towns has never proven to be elite-level superstar, but plays a role. Rudy Gobert is all-star caliber, but would you call him he's not a superstar? Oklahoma City Thunder, you've got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Chet in his second year, even though technically a rookie, playing well, but role players in actual roles. Denver Nuggets, Jokic in the band, right? Aaron Gordon knows his role. Jamal Murray knows his role. Maybe Denver's the closest thing to what used to be a super. My point is, are super teams a thing anymore? Right? Have we seen potentially the end of super teams? Because the Boston Celtics, wow, they've got Brown and Tatum. They built that. You know what I mean? The Cavs have Donovan Mitchell and really good role players. We just mentioned the Knicks, Brunson, and who? You know what I mean? Like, they have good players.
I mean,
in
Julius
Anunoby.
Randle's kind of a star. Kind of,
but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, like, we're not seeing anything like LeBron and AD. They're 30 and 26, ninth place. Golden State Warriors, 27 and 26 in 10th place. The only kind of super team that's working right now, I mean, mention the Bucks in third place, but like the Clippers. Clippers are 36 and 17, and they're a bona fide super team. But they're few and far between. I guess, would you call Phoenix a super team? I think so.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Beal, Durant, and Booker.
But they're fifth place.
Yeah.
They're, still 6 games behind Minnesota and 4.5 behind Oklahoma City. And like I said, anything can happen in the postseason, but it is an interesting shift. And the NBA needs this shift, by the way, because the whole superstar thing ran its course. It's not working anymore because women's college basketball is outdrawing you. And nothing against women's college basketball. Shout out to Caitlin Clark, who, I mean, what a performance.
So I'll say this, though, and again, I think there's just going to need to be an asterisk used when she passes Pete Maravich because Pete Maravich did it in 3 seasons.
I disagree, but that's okay.
Why?
Career's a career. Career's a career. Did the same thing with Babe Ruth. Like, we could do this all day, right? What about a guy that did something, like, is it yards per game for, like, it's career yards. It's yard. And that's what I think a record is a record. It's a career. You go to college. Now, if, like, Cam McCormick with 9 years of eligibility was, like, breaking records, then maybe. But career's a career.
I mean, a whole year of games is pretty different, Justin. That's, 40, 30-some opportunity? I mean, yeah.
But did Pete Maravich, was he denied a 4th year?
No, but you couldn't play freshman back then.
Oh, that's right.
So not really his fault either.
Yeah, good point.
So, and his dad was LSU's head coach. That
his
helps
dad
too.
made sure that everything was built around him.
You couldn't play freshman. So it's like, imagine if Caitlin Clark couldn't play as a freshman.
She'd probably still be pretty close.
And believe me,
but see, that's the thing with, like, I disagree, but that's okay. That's why we're here. We're having a little fun disagreement. I think a career is a career. Because, like, all right, is like, because I believe Kareem Abdul-Jabbar scored his amount of points in less games than LeBron James did. Like, should that have an asterisk?
It's different because it's a 4-year
different?
career. We're talking about college careers.
I just think a career is a career. You go to college. Now, you know what's really going to change the whole thing? You want my conspiracy theory tinfoil hat? Watch what's going to happen. From what I understand, and I don't know, but from what I understand, for Angel Reese at LSU, Caitlin Clark clearly at Iowa, there's a freshman phenom at USC, and forgive me, I've forgotten her name, but it's like I see her pop up all. The NIL money that they're going to make is going to be so much more than they will make in the WNBA. And if all of a sudden we are now in this position where college athletes are employees, how can the NCAA deny eligibility for a college athlete if they can make more money in college than they can as a WNBA player? Now, I'm not saying Caitlin Clark's going to do it, but there's going to be a player who's going to be like, no, antitrust laws, like you cannot deny me the ability to make money. Women's basketball is going to be the catalyst. We think it's going to be quarterbacks in NIL in college football. It's going to be women's basketball because you can make more money as and there's only.
But it's always been, you can get paid now. But again, I go back to, again, I'm not going to say anybody was paid, but like when I had a front row seat for UConn's dynasty when they went to the Final Four and I went to the Final Four in 2015.
Yeah.
That was Oregon State's best team. UConn had won 320 out of 322 games.
It's a lot.
Breonna Stewart and that whole crew's like,
Notre Dame? Was it Notre Dame that beat them? It was Notre Dame.
Sounds right. There are a couple teams, and Stanford got him once.
Stanford got him.
But yeah, it's like they won 4 titles in 4 years, and it's like every year as a junior, Breonna Stewart's like, I'm not going to WNBA. Why? So it's and eventually she did, and she's MVP and all those things. But
that was back when there was amateurism. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Amateurism's gone, and if you're getting paid, you're an employee, and they do not have anything collectively bargained. There is no college athlete union. It's coming, by the way. And I wonder if you go to court, if you were Caitlin Clark or Angel Reese, and you go to court and say, I am making X amount of dollars playing college basketball. If the highest paid player in the WNBA is making less than me, why am I not able to be eligible if I'm an employee now? I'm in college. I am enrolled. I'm 4 or 5 master's programs, right? It's going to happen. I'm not saying it's going to be Caitlin Clark, but I'm saying there is going to be a women's college basketball player or a group who is going to take this to court and is going to be like, you can't say I can't play 5 years, 6 years, 7 years because we're making money.
So you want to talk about how messed up the WNBA salary is? You can't even buy a house with a yearly salary. Highest salary cap of anybody was $241,000. You walk around any parts of the Pacific Northwest with that money, they'll laugh at you.
Yeah, what do you think Caitlin Clark's making? 2-3 mil?
Iowa?
2-3 mil? She's on every TV, like the eyeballs, and like I saw, and
yeah, probably.
Maybe let's.
But I don't know. Women's basketball is not quite as.
But wait for this. This is
transparent with the money, I would say.
Well, in college, right? It's all kind of nuts because it's collectives.
You always hear it's like, oh yeah, we heard what Bo Nix was probably making. We heard what DJU got at Oregon State. Can't say anyone's like gone on Twitter been like, this is what Caitlin Clark has gotten. So that's all I'm saying there.
All right, you ready for this? You want to know the Caitlin Clark impact? And then we got to wrap this up. Iowa is playing Illinois at home on Sunday. Lowest ticket price, getting you in the building, $252. $252 just to get in the build. That's the lowest ticket price. They're playing number 2 Ohio State on March the 3rd at home in Iowa. $322 just to get in the building. I think she's making over $1 million. I think the good people at Iowa who are making a lot of money are taking care of Caitlin Clark because Caitlin Clark is taking care of a lot of them. All right, speaking of taking care of things, how about your roofing, your siding, your windows, your bathroom? Well, why don't you talk to the experts? DeBella is the roofing, siding, windows, and bath experts here in the great state of Oregon. They're also the official home improvement partner of the Portland Timbers because something we can all look to do in 2024 is save a little bit of money. And if you update your roof with solar shingles, you could potentially pay for that roof with savings in your energy bills and with federal or state incentives. Contact DeBella right now for details. It's easy. Estimates are free, and they schedule a time that is convenient for you. You might have seen DeBella's work on Better Homes and Gardens, Real Simple, or HGTV, and they have got over 15,000 5-star reviews on Google for their excellent work. What does that mean? Well, they will handle your home improvement project better than anyone else because no one else has that many 5-star reviews. They've got award-winning customer service, and they've received accolades from Angie's List and Home Advisor. Now is the perfect time to connect with DeBella because 0 down and no payments until 2025. Of course, that's on approved credit, but 0 down and no payments until 2025. Contact DeBella for a free, no-obligation appointment for roofing, windows, siding, bath projects. DeBella, they are the official home improvement partner of the Portland Timbers. All right, time to wrap up the big show. We do that the same way each and every day. With the RCM mailbag, random questions, any subject, any topic, nothing, I repeat, nothing is off limits, and I will not, I repeat, will not duck the tough questions. Let's fire up the RCM mailbag. All right, real quick, can I reverse mailbag it?
Sure.
Real quick, because we were talking to Josh Pate in hour number 2, and he said on his show, he put out on Twitter, what's the best thing about college football? And for me, it's the experience. And not this music that you're hearing right now, but the intro music, which was Sandstorm. I believe that's the intro for South Carolina.
Think so. Yeah.
I've watched some YouTube videos of and I said, best part of college football is the experience. You're there. You know what it's like to you have to experience Shout at Autzen Stadium live in person to kind of get it. That stupid chainsaw in Corvallis, right? It's like it hits different when you are there. Sandstorm in South Carolina or Enter Sandman at Virginia Tech and all that stuff. So reverse mailbag, what would be the one kind of college football experience? You only get one. What is it? Is it jump around at Wisconsin? Is it splitting the tee at Tennessee? What would be yours? I know what mine would be, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna hold it until.
I don't have like a one that I feel just like it's at the top, so I'm just gonna go easy and say anywhere in the SEC. It's a huge bucket list item for me to get down to the SEC.
But is there like a number one?
Like a song or
Or
just
just like Oregon has Shout at the third
I can't
quarter.
say I know exactly what all the SEC ones
All right.
are off the top of my head. But like,
All right, this weekend, if you get some time.
Yeah.
I know you're busy.
No,
you're a
no, yeah.
busy guy. Got Civil War basketball this weekend.
oh yeah,
Get on a deep.
baseball starts today, Justin.
Also,
that's
yeah,
the priority.
sorry. Beaver baseball starts today.
That's priority.
Dude, just get on a YouTube rabbit hole
Yeah,
of
okay.
stuff like Colin Baton Rouge
Yeah,
at an LSU game like that. There's Dixieland Delight,
yeah.
which they play at Alabama.
Do you know what Ole Miss is off the top of your head? Because
I-
at this
Well,
moment,
Ole Miss, their whole thing is the Grove and like experiencing like the tailgating at the Grove, and then they do the hottie toddy chant.
so as of this moment, Oregon State's scheduled to play Ole Miss in 2 years, and that's been a
you gotta go.
That's
You gotta
been a
go.
family.
Start squirreling money away now.
Oh, Justin, it's been a family trip in the works for about 8 years now. So
Did they schedule it like 8 years
oh
ago?
yeah, we've had it where we've like 2026 Oxford. So I'm really hoping that game doesn't get canceled. One
Yeah.
and B, I gotta go. So it's like
Yeah,
I would
definitely
love
gotta
to go
that
down
one.
there.
But like I've watch sometime
I
this
will, yeah,
weekend.
I'll have to dive
Colin
into it a little
Baton
bit.
Rouge,
Yeah.
which is awesome Garth Brooks song. Colin Baton
Okay.
Rouge at a LSU game. It's insane. That's the one I want to be a part of.
Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely have to check into that. Like I said, I've kind of know some of the basic ones, but I can't like go through and be like, this team does this team does this. So
Like there's like the Florida State Tomahawk Chop.
that'd be cool.
They do
I'd like to see
the Tom Petty song at Florida games.
yeah, and the Gator Chomp would be cool to see in person.
But like the Tom Petty song, like
Yeah.
everybody's singing "Won't Back Down."
Okay.
That's seemed pretty awesome.
Yeah,
Dixieland
okay.
Delight that
Yeah.
they do at Alabama games.
I'll have to look into it.
Sandstorm seems awesome.
Yeah, Sandstorm is a good song. It's
Well, have you like there's
pumps you up.
the light show they do, and they do like the root because they're the Gamecocks, and they got
Yeah.
the rooster crowing,
Yeah.
and then the. Beep, 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 beep. It's
But
not-
Justin, I'd be remiss. The absolute best is fourth quarter party in the USA at Reser Stadium. So just that's unbeaten.
little
So,
underrated, little under the radar.
Little Miley, baby. It's awesome. All right, let's get into at least one mailbag question. Justin, say you won a mid-level lottery, not hundreds of millions, but more than thousands. Say you won like the Oregon lottery, a cool $1 million.
Cool $1 million. How about it?
How long do you think you could keep it a secret? If you won like just enough to where your lifestyle could change.
Like from anybody or like the public?
Anybody. Like you and Mrs. Myers know. How long can you keep it a secret? Like you come home, Kelly, I won the lottery.
Maybe-
We got $1.1 million.
Maybe a day. Maybe a day.
How long before you tweet about it?
I would not tweet about it.
Okay.
I
you
would not tweet
go
about
on
it.
social media.
Well, I say that. Who knows? Like, It might be me tweet a picture of me with lighting a cigar on fire with $100 bill.
Might be like Dan Lanning with the cigar.
Like, I always worry that, like, I don't worry about it, but, like, could you imagine, like, you win that and you figure, like, I am financially set forever. And they're like, yeah, no, you're not. There's a lot of taxes and there's other things come out. And you, like, say, like, I've got some things to say to you people. Now I'm a millionaire. And it's like, yeah, you're going to have to come back to work. But, yeah, maybe a day. Maybe a day. And then it's like, yeah, guess what? Things are changing. All right. That's going to do it for the big show today. Thanks to Josh Pate from Late Kick Live. Thanks to super producer Brenden. And thanks to all of you. Have a terrific weekend. We are back at it Monday morning, bright and early here on 620 Rip City Radio.